I think it's probably helpful to talk about what is incontinence. So urinary incontinence is when we unintentionally pass urine. Okay, so it's something that people don't necessarily like to talk about. It's usually caused by problems with the muscles and the nerves that help to hold or pass urine. Some of the causes of incontinence include drinking too much caffeine or alcohol, poor fluid intake, childbirth, obesity and surgery. And I think it's really interesting that some of the work that Urology Foundation commissioned and some of the results that came from the survey of 1,000 members of the UK public, only 1% said that they'd associate urinary incontinence with obesity. And that's interesting to me because obesity is a major cause of incontinence. And in fact, both men, women and children who are obese are at higher risk of developing urinary incontinence. So really important messages that are coming out here today. I think it's very hidden. What we know that people, so you or I, who've got incontinence, we're not alone. There's an estimated 14 million, could be more, and 6.5 million of those may have bowel issues as well. So yes, very hidden, and that's why we're here to encourage people to speak out and persuade people to talk about incontinence. I think is a really important thing from today. Certainly people like me, so I'm a urology nurse, I'm talking about it all of the time. I think what we know is people are quite embarrassed about talking about it. We want to encourage them to seek advice. The first point of call would be their GP, and that's where they're going to get some confidential advice. I think what we know is that there's a huge stigma about talking about incontinence, but I think what you and I have to remember is that there's no stigma associated with that with healthcare professionals, because it's a daily thing that we're doing. So GPs, urologists, urology nurses, continence nurses, physiotherapists, they're used to hearing about incontinence, and typically they're discussing it in one form or another. Some patients that come along and maybe have to have some investigations, so further investigations, although that wouldn't be the first point of call. To make that a confidential, respectful and understanding environment, typically we will hear lots of stories. And so, women who are going into the gym and trying to do high impact exercises who are getting stress leakage, how embarrassing is that? And they're concerned that might happen when they're with us. And typically we'll say to them, there's nothing you can do in here that we won't have seen already. And we really just need to demonstrate so that we can understand, what the cause of their incontinence is. It's a Cinderella subject, isn't it? So, we don't talk about it. I think at the Urology Foundation, the challenges really are that urology and urology diseases are not well known amongst the general public. So, we'll talk and include cancer, diseases of the prostate, kidney, bladder, testes, male infertility, erectile dysfunction and incontinence. So you can see that, typically there can be a stigma attached to many of those urology conditions, and perhaps due to embarrassment, thinking that they're the only ones, or simply that they just don't have the words to be able to start that conversation. There's lots of information out there. The Urology Foundation have a fantastic website, and they've got some information about incontinence, types of incontinence and their treatment, and you can find lots of useful website links as well on there. So that's at the urologyfoundation.org. And I think what I would encourage people to do is to recognise it and then go and speak to the GP. Because if you've got any concerns about urinary incontinence, they would be your first port of call. I think it's really important that people realise that incontinence affects everybody. So when the Urology Foundation undertook the survey of 1,000 members of the UK public, 30% they blamed incontinence for ageing. It's quite interesting to see that that's where they believe the issue is, but actually men, women of all ages and children can suffer from incontinence.